go!
Please, you're hurting me!
Please!
Let go!
You think you can just run after what you did? Look at me!
Oh, this is priceless. She's falling apart and you're still playing the hero.
Keep laughing, Claire. You're next.
I don't want your daughters. I want a son. Those words slammed into Alana like a storm. The home she built, the life she nurtured, was shattered in an instant. 3 little girls clung to her, terrified, while Marcus signed the papers that would erase them from his world. She carried a secret he could never see, a life growing inside her, the very son he demanded. Months later, the headline hit him like a punch. Former wife gives birth to his son. The man who discarded everything realized, too late, that some financial losses can never be repaired. Welcome, story lovers! Where are you watching from? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. Before everything shattered, his world looked perfectly controlled from the outside. Polished floors, quiet halls, and the steady hum of a business empire built on discipline and legacy. Marcus believed legacy meant one thing: a son to carry his name. It was the measure of a man in his family, a rule carved into him by generations before. And though the world around him had changed, his thinking had not. His home, despite its modern walls and luxury, carried an old, stubborn shadow. His wife, Alana, moved through that home with a quiet grace. A black woman with a soft voice and an even softer heart, she raised their 3 daughters in warmth he never learned to give. To her, children weren't burdens or trophies. They were miracles. But Marcus only saw what he didn't have. Every birthday, every first day of school, every family photo, he looked at his daughters and saw absence, not abundance. He saw the heir he didn't have, never the blessings he already had. Yet from the outside, people assumed they were a picture-perfect family. Marcus, the successful mogul. Alana, the elegant mother. 3 bright daughters who adored their father even when he barely looked up from his laptop. But inside the house, the tension was like a low-burning ember, waiting for the right gust to ignite. Alana felt the shift before he ever said a word. The way he sighed when the girls laughed too loudly. The way he withdrew from family dinners. The way he carried an unspoken disappointment like it was her fault, a weight she never asked to take. In her quiet moments, she wondered whether love was supposed to feel like this, measured, conditional, fragile. But even then, something was growing inside her. A new life, a heartbeat she hadn't yet shared. She wanted to be sure, to savor the secret, just a little longer. She hoped, prayed, that maybe this time things would be different. That the news might finally warm the cold distance in his eyes. What she didn't know was that the truth brewing inside her would collide with the bitterness building inside him, and the impact would tear their world apart. The distance between Marcus and Alana widened quietly at first, barely noticeable to those outside their home, but heavy enough that the girls felt it in every room they entered. Marcus still walked with the confidence of a man who believed the world bent for him, but inside frustration brewed like a storm cloud, fed by whispers from business partners who praised his empire yet pitied him for not having a proper heir. The comments were subtle, wrapped in smiles, but their meaning cut deep. For Marcus, the absence of a son became an open wound he blamed on Alana. It didn't matter that she carried the household. It didn't matter that she carried the girls. In his eyes, she had failed him in the one way that mattered most. And as his bitterness grew, so did a quieter, uglier truth, one he never acknowledged. He had once married Alana with pride, believing their love showed the world he was progressive, open-minded, and evolved. But as his ambition swelled, so did the prejudice he thought he'd long buried. When people questioned whether his daughters would be fit to inherit his legacy, he never defended them. He let their racism leak into his own insecurities until it hardened into resentment. Alana felt the sting of that shift long before he spoke it aloud. He started coming home late, avoiding her eyes, and making decisions about the girls without consulting her. Even the smallest conversations became sharp, cold, transactional. She tried to reach him, tried to soften the edges. But every attempt was met with another reminder that she wasn't enough for him, because her daughters weren't sons. And still, she held her secret close. The pregnancy. the flutter of a life forming inside her. She told herself she would wait for the perfect moment to share the news, imagining the shock melting from his face, imagining joy finally returning to their home. But the perfect moment never came. Instead, everything erupted in a single afternoon. He walked in early, carrying papers she hadn't seen before. Papers with her name on them. Papers that signaled the end. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't explain. He simply handed her the divorce documents and said the words that hollowed her. "I need a future my daughters can't give me. Not our daughters. My daughters." As if he were distancing himself from the 3 little girls who ran to him with open arms. As if their existence offended his vision of legacy. The girls stood behind her, confused, clutching their toys, watching their world crumble. And Alana, shaking, stunned, could do nothing but ask one question, why? But his answer was written in his eyes, in his posture, in the cold satisfaction of a man who believed he was choosing power over family. Within hours, she was forced out of the home she helped build, carrying her daughters in trembling arms. And Marcus, convinced he had freed himself from disappointment, turned his back without once asking where they would go or how they would survive. But life was already moving beneath the surface, growing, forming, waiting. A truth he would soon discover most devastatingly. Ready for the next part? Months passed in a blur of hardship for Alana and her daughters. Every day was a struggle, finding shelter, putting food on the table, keeping the girls safe from a world that seemed to judge them twice over. Once for their color, and once for the loss of the father who should have protected them. Alana's heart ached with exhaustion and fear. Yet, she carried on, determined that her children would feel love, even when abandoned by the man who was supposed to give it freely. Then one morning, Marcus's world collided with the truth. A headline flashed across his tablet, jagged and unforgiving. Local woman gives birth to son after divorce, heir to family fortune born to former wife. His eyes widened. His breath caught. The letters blurred as the world tilted on its axis. He reread it. And again. The boy, his boy, was alive, healthy, and had been in her womb when he coldly sent them into the streets. Shock gave way to something darker. Regret, despair, disbelief. How could he have been so blind, so cruel? He had walked away from everything money could never buy, from a life he had chosen to discard with one signature. And now, the weight of his own prejudice, his obsession with legacy, pressed down on him like a physical force. For the first time, he felt powerless. The empire he had built meant nothing without the family it was supposed to protect. He realized in that moment that hate, judgment, and the blind pursuit of a patriarchal ideal had cost him the most precious gift life could offer. And Alana? She held her son in her arms, surrounded by the daughters he had dismissed. Stronger, undefeated, and whole. Marcus's empire had grown, but his heart had shattered. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments! Alana's life never returned to what it had been, but in a way it became richer. The heartbreak, the betrayal, and the cold streets she had endured only strengthened her resolve. She nurtured her daughters and her newborn son with unwavering love, teaching them that worth is not measured by legacy or inheritance, but by courage, compassion, and resilience. Each smile, each laugh, each milestone became a quiet victory against the cruelty they had suffered. Marcus, on the other hand, discovered a truth that money could not erase: the cost of prejudice. His empire still stood, but it felt hollow. He had sacrificed the very life he claimed to want, blinded by his own bias and obsession with a son. Every headline, every whispered story of Alana's triumph became a mirror reflecting his failure, not as a father, not as a man, but as a human being. The story isn't just about a man losing what he could never buy. It's about the insidious weight of racism, entitlement, and rigid expectations that destroy families and hearts alike. Alana's experience mirrors countless untold stories in which injustice is compounded by societal pressures and deeply ingrained biases. It raises a question for all of us. How often do we overlook love, humanity, and justice because we are blinded by what we think we deserve? How many lives are upended by prejudice that goes unchallenged? Alana and her children survived and thrived, reminding us that true legacy is not in a name or fortune, but in the love, resilience, and dignity we leave behind. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more stories that challenge, inspire, and reveal truths about the world we live in.